Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jenna Stamatopoulos, and I would like to welcome you to Saugus High School's April 11th episode of Sachem Times Live. Today, the journalists of our school will interview English teacher Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan will now begin the press conference with an opening statement.
Okay, I've prepared some opening remarks. Good morning. I'd like to thank you all for having me here today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brendan Sullivan. I'm an English teacher here at Saugus High School. I'm also co-advisor to the senior class and president of the Saugus Educators Association. I have no specific agenda or focus for this press conference today. But before we begin, I would like to say that I'm very familiar with the work that the Sachem Times has been doing. And while I don't want to appear to be kissing up to the press before they pepper me with questions, I do want to take this opportunity to congratulate you on the great job you've all been doing. You've kept the strong tradition of Sachem Times alive, both in the newspaper and now online. In addition, you have undertaken this excellent television program that provides a new look at the people who make up Saugus High. You should be very proud of the great work you're doing. In addition, I hope you are aware how lucky you are to have teachers like Ms. Agola and Mr. Webb who go above and beyond to provide you with these unique learning experiences. And now, without further ado, I would like to open the floor to questions. You.
Jenna Stamatopoulos, class of 2015 Sachem Times. What is your favorite piece of literature and why?
Well, there's just too many great books out there to really ever settle on just one. As an English major and an English teacher, of course, I have read many of the great classics. But on my own time, when I choose my own books, I tend to go for spy novels and thrillers. So some of my favorites are the classics in that genre, such as The Eagle Has Landed, The Day of the Jackal, the James Bond series, the original works. I've often thought about trying to make an elective based around some of those works, but I'm not sure that there would really be much demand for it, but maybe someday I'll see.
Sydney Bruce, class of 2015, Sachem Times. What do you think of Harry Potter fans?
What do I think of Harry Potter fans?
Yes.
Well, I have to admit I'm not a Harry Potter fan myself. I tried reading the first book a long time ago, and it just really didn't pique my interest at all. I have seen most of the movies, and I found them to be pretty entertaining. But I will say this, as an English teacher, I really can get behind anything that got such a large segment of the population reading. Those books really inspired a devotion that you don't see very often in literature. I happened to be in England when the final book was released, and just at bookstores in Stratford, where I was, there were lines of people lining up to get their first copy of that final Harry Potter book. So any book that can inspire that level of commitment and devotion from readers, I think is a great thing. Yes.
Kaylee Murphy, class of 2015 Sachem Times. What is your favorite movie to show in your history and elements of film class?
Well, all the films I show in that class are great, and that's the reason I show them, is they're great classic American films. But my favorite to show is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And the simple reason for that is that's my favorite movie of all time. That's the movie that I watched when I was a little kid, and that really piqued my interest in film, and I became a film buff in large part because of that movie. So, I mean, to have a class where I can show students my favorite film and then talk to them about my favorite film, I mean, it really doesn't get any better than that for me. So that's my favorite to show. Good. Next. Yes.
Michaela Perella, class 2015, Sachem Times. Do you have any pets and or pet peeves?
Yes, I have a pet. I have a dog named Indiana, who takes his name from the protagonist in the Heroes, Raiders of the Lost Ark. As far as pet peeves go, to be honest, I probably have too many pet peeves to sit here and list right now. Despite the laid-back demeanor, I can be annoyed quite often. So we don't want to listen to my list of pet peeves. But another question. Hi.
Hello, Valentino Patrick, Sachem Times 2015. How many years have you worked at Saugus High School? Also, what are some of the changes you have observed over the years?
This is my 11th year here at Saugus High. I started in the fall of 2001. Excuse me. So during that time, I've seen a lot of changes. A lot of them are small changes, you guys, that happened before you came in here. Some of them small changes people probably wouldn't even notice. When I first started here, there wasn't assigned parking spaces. And so, you see change, little things like that, assigned parking spaces. I've seen curriculum guides. I've seen curriculum maps, different formats for using lesson plans, the beginning of IDs, which I see, Mr. Lavoie has on and a few others. So I've seen a lot of little changes like that. The inclusion of a third lunch. But I'd say the biggest change that I've seen in 11 years is the change in the staff. In my 11th year, I've been here longer than almost 2/3 of the teachers and the administrators who work here. When I began working here in the fall of 2001, it was a very veteran staff. There was a lot of teachers who had been in the system for quite some time, who were nearing the end of their careers, who were still working here then. There was a lot of new teachers coming in at the same time. I came in with a wave of new teachers. But over the past 11 years, I've seen a lot of those veteran teachers retire, and they've been replaced by newer teachers. And during that process, I've also witnessed a lot of turnovers, teachers who come for a couple of years and then move on. So I think that change in the faces in the hallways among the teachers and administrators is probably the biggest change that's occurred in 11 years. I do believe personally that an experienced, established veteran staff is great for schools. It helps to build culture. It helps to build tradition. Students like to come back and visit at high school. When they come back, they like to see familiar faces. Hopefully, when you all leave here, you'll have teachers that you really, really like and that you want to come back and see on occasion. And so having those people helps to make the school a bigger part of the community. I also think it's very, very beneficial for the other teachers. New teachers are great. They bring in new ideas. They bring in fresh energy, and you need that constantly. But at the same time, an established teaching staff, veteran teachers, they bring experience and wisdom from their years of being in the classroom that's invaluable, especially to a new teacher. I know I probably wouldn't have made it through my first few years as a teacher here if it hadn't been for the help of some tremendous veteran teachers who really got me through my first 3 years before they retired. So that's been the biggest change. It's exciting to see all the new people come in, but I think we've got a great staff now. And so my hope is that we can really take the staff we have now and move it from being kind of a younger staff to a few years down the line to a very veteran, established staff without, a lot of turnover. Yes?
Danielle Strange, Sachem Times, class of 2015. What can Saugus High do to improve their MCAS ELA scores?
The short answer to that question, I believe, is to keep doing what we're doing. Something that I was very proud of as a teacher here at Saugus High School, and I think the students and the rest of the faculty should be very proud of, were our results for the 10th graders on the 2011 ELA English MCAS exam. They were some of the best results we'd seen in years. 16% of the students who took the ELA MCAS in 2011 received an advanced score, 16%. That's an improvement from just 12% who received an advanced score in 2010. 64% of the students who took the MCAS in 2011 received proficient, and that's an improvement from 59% in 2010. So 80% of the students who took the exam last year received either advanced or proficient, which meet or exceeds what is expected. Only 1% of students who took the ELA MCAS exam last year received a failing mark, just 1%, and that is a decrease from 3% in 2010. So are we done? Do we have to stop working? No, absolutely not. There's still work to be done. This year, for example, you may have noticed in your English classes an extra emphasis on open response writing, especially among 9th and 10th graders. You've probably been writing a lot of, paragraphs, short writing assignments. And that's because we're trying to continue to build on the improvements we've made. But I think last year's results really speak to the level of commitment and dedication from both the teachers and from the students. It really is a testament to our hard work. Another question. Yes?
Patrick Davis, Sachem Times, class of 2015. What is the most fun part about being a teacher?
Getting your own press conference. Well, most teachers, or I shouldn't speak for most teachers. I try to contain myself sometimes, but if you don't know me, you'll probably learn I kind of like the sound of my own voice, and I like to talk. So getting a forum like this is great for me. But besides the press conferences, getting to teach something you love. I went to college and I majored in English because I loved books, I loved stories. And getting to come in here every day and teach something you love, that's a gift. I mean, not everybody gets that in their professional life. So getting to teach a subject matter that really means something to me, I really enjoy that. And the other thing that's great is just getting to work with the students and the faculty here at Saugus High School. We have just great people in this building. The kids are great, the faculty's great, and getting to come here every day and work with them, it's a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Another question.
Cindy Bruce, class of 2015, Sachem Times. How long does it take you in the morning to style your hair? What products do you use? Do you have to do any touch-ups over the course of the day?
Excellent question. I'm asked this question quite frequently. People stop me on the streets and want to know how I do my hair. Admittedly, it looks good. It doesn't take me as long as you'd think in the morning to do my hair. I have a routine down, and some people might not know this, but over the years here at Saugus High School, my hairstyle has changed, perhaps subtly at times, but it's changed. But it only takes me a few minutes to style my hair in the morning, maybe 3 or 4. But currently I am using Garnier Fructose Style Gel Extra Strong. I don't require touch-ups because it has a 24-hour flake-free hold that I find really works better than many of the other products I've tried in the past. And I've tried many products over the years. I've tried everything from mousse, which I find, makes it too puffy for me, hairspray, which gets everywhere, pomade, different products. This one I really like, and I've been using it for quite some time. And it is excellent because I put it on at about 5:45 in the morning, and when I go home, sometimes at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, when I walk through the door, my hair still looks good, and I still feel presentable to the world, and that's important to me. I think appearance, is important to me. So excellent question, and I highly recommend the product. If you're looking for the semi-wet look that I have now, before I used to go for more of a wet look, slick back. But as I've gotten older and I'm trying to go for a more distinguished, I don't know if your audience knows the Jack Donaghy character from 30 Rock, but I'm going for the more distinguished executive look. I find this is an excellent product for that, and hopefully this will get me an endorsement deal. Yes?
Kaylee Murphy, class 2015, Sachem Times. Who is your favorite teacher at Saugus High School and why?
Well, I'm my favorite teacher. I mean, I think it's becoming apparent in this line of questioning. But beyond me, it's impossible to play favorites here. We have a tremendous teaching staff at Saugus High School. Just a lot of great, very different, very interesting people. And I just couldn't ever imagine picking just one as being my favorite. I will say this. As far as departments go, I do think the English department is the best, hands down. above and beyond anything. I mean, if you look at the lineup that we have in the English department, it's basically an all-star team. It's almost not even fair. I might be a little partial, but I do really think that we have great teachers here. If I was going to take one class here, though, I think I'd take AutoCAD with Mr. Bontempo. I've been in there several times, and they're designing things on the screens, and it just interests me. I want to know what they're doing. It looks like a class you could walk out of the room and actually get a job doing something with that. And if you haven't had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Bontempo, he's a great guy, a tremendous asset to the school, and I think it would be a great learning experience just to have 45 minutes a day with him. Other questions?
Michaela Perella, class 2015, Sachem Times. What are some of the challenges of being the Teachers Union president?
It's a good question. There's a lot of challenges that come along with it. I'd say one challenge that comes to mind right away is time. I teach a full load like the other teachers in the building. I teach 5 classes out of 7 periods of the day. So, obviously teaching is my first priority, and it's my full-time job. And it's my chosen profession. So trying to make time between family obligations and my teaching schedule is the first challenge you face. Part of being the association president that I hadn't realized was just the number of meetings you have. Formal meetings that I'll have with the officers and the board of directors of the association, meetings that I will have with the superintendent or various administrators around the district, but also smaller informal meetings where I meet with different teachers, different members of the association, and give them a few minutes of time to talk about issues that they might have or concerns they might have. Sometimes it's one-on-one, sometimes it's small groups, sometimes I'll meet with a whole building. So trying to schedule time for all this, that's the first obstacle I face. Beyond time, paperwork is another challenge that I face that I had no idea would be quite what it is. There's a tremendous amount of paperwork involved in schools in general, much of which you guys never see. You see the paperwork that English teachers like me pass out when I give you essays and tests and everything else, but there are almost 250 teachers in this district, and there's policies and there's a contract and there's all kinds of forms. So just maintaining and organizing all of that paperwork is a big part of what I do as president. Maintaining files, maintaining records, maintaining communications with my members, with the administration, and with the Mass Teachers Association that we're part of. So that can be challenging, especially when you're not, by nature, which I'm not, an incredibly organized person. I was the student who, when the teacher, remember when you're in elementary school and you have the desk, they lift up the top? Do you guys have those? I was the kid whose desk was a mess. There was just papers everywhere, and I would have to stay after school and organize all that. And I was the kid who went through school, and the one the teacher's always getting on about only having one notebook for all their classes. That was me, and that's why. And I know that's why I try and stress to my students not to do that, because I know what a struggle that can be. So keeping organized is a struggle. But I think the biggest thing that I struggle with is the perception of teachers' unions that are out there. I try as best I can to combat the misperceptions that some people might have about teachers' unions. Oftentimes when they're in the news, it's not in an incredibly positive light. And so sometimes they get negative press, or people have negative attitudes towards teachers' unions and other unions that there might be. But in my opinion, I believe that, and perhaps I'm biased, I believe that the teachers' union are vital to the educational success in this state and in this country. It provides teachers a voice in their workplace, and it provides teachers with a formal avenue to address issues or concerns that they might have. Sometimes, as president, I have to speak out on certain issues or question people in authority, and I don't do it because I'm trying to be a pain in the neck. I don't do it because I'm trying to obstruct change. I do it because I want to make sure that the process is done fairly. I do it because I want to make sure things are done as best as they can be done for the students and for the teachers. And the only way to do that sometimes is to question people and to stay on them. So, an excellent question. Yes, young man.
Richard Lavoie, Sachem Times alumni, class of 1995. Some say you have a knack for quoting D-movies from the 90s. But there's a rumor that in the 1990s, you fancied yourself a screenwriter. Would you please tell us about the movie that you tried to write and, of course, indulge us with the title?
It wasn't just in the 1990s that I fancied myself an aspiring screenwriter. In high school, as I said, I've been a film buff pretty much my whole life. In high school, I decided screenwriting was going to be the career for me. So I began writing screenplays in high school. It was I believe the screenplay you're talking about, I wrote in the early 2000s. I was actually a teacher here at Saugus High when I was moonlighting at home in my parents' basement as a screenwriter. And it was a zombie movie, but it was before the zombie rage really hit. I like to think I had a direct impact on all the zombie films and television shows that are out there now. It's a registered screenplay with the Screenwriters Guild of America, so if you attempt to steal the idea or the title, I will have to send you a letter asking you not to do so. But the screenplay about zombies, it was pretty typical. It was a group of teens who were out on a camping trip, and they get caught in the woods being chased by zombies. Not the chemical type of zombies, but a more traditional zombie, out of the ground, rising, Night of the Living Dead type zombie. The name of the film, which I believe is a very Shakespearean name, was Noggin Chompers. As you can imagine, the subtlety of the title is lost on some people, but if noggin kind of being a name for the head and chompers being the act of the zombies trying to get at your brain, that was the title of the film. Unfortunately, due to some production problems, the film was never completed, but I stand behind my work. I'm proud of it, and I feel someday, perhaps not in this generation, but your children or your children's children will study that in class as if it was Hamlet or Macbeth. Question.
Jenna Stamatopoulos, class of 2015, Sachem Times. How would you describe the climate of Saugus High School?
How would I describe the climate of Saugus High School? As I said earlier, I think one of the things that we have here at Saugus is we have a great staff and we have a great student body. If you compare the students here to students anywhere, the teachers here to the teachers in any of the surrounding districts, I don't think anyone has anything on us. I think we have a great staff and a student body. Obviously, unlike some other towns around, we don't have the, brand new facilities that other places have. But I think the people is really what matters, and I think we have great people here. So we have a great foundation. I do believe we have work to do. You go to certain things, you go to events, dances, the homecoming, or Mr. Saugus High, and the attendance at those events by both, I don't want to pin it all on the students, by both students and faculty alike are down from what they were in recent years. And that should be for us kind of a warning sign. But I don't think we should get down on ourselves. I don't think we should look at it and say, this is terrible, what's wrong, and focus on the negative. I think what we have to do is look at this as an opportunity to build. We have an opportunity now to decide who we are moving forward as a school community. And we have to rally around that vision, and we have to promote it, and we have to support it. And it's going to be hard work, but it's a great opportunity to take the traditions that we have here and try and build on them in a new direction. Part of it has to do with the change that we've seen over the past decade in the teachers. With all the old, I don't want to say old, with all the veteran teachers who retired, sometimes you lose things, you lose traditions, you lose a sense of identity when the people who have made up this place for so long move on to that next phase of their life. So we have to try and recapture that identity, I think. I think that is a mission for us now as a school. And we have to figure out what we want to take from our past, what we want to keep, and then how we want to, build on that for the future. Otherwise, we let our image be created by someone else. I mean, I don't know if you have questions related to it. I have it over there. But obviously, we've been in the news as a school and a school district a little bit in the past year or so. And I think you can't control much of that. And sometimes news stories, this as journalists, news stories just kind of take off unexpectedly. Personally, I don't know what anyone other than a parent or a student going to the prom, I don't know what interest anyone would have in Saugus High School's dress code, outside of the people actually going to the prom. But for whatever reason, it's captured the imagination. But we have to do a better job, and I believe we're capable of it, and I believe we're starting to make strides in the right direction. We have to do a better job of creating our image, of presenting who we are, what matters to us as a school, and then really standing by that. So I think there's work to be done, but I think we have the best people, students and faculty alike, to do that.
Valentino Patrick, Saugus Times Live, class of 2015. If you could be any character from a book, who would it be and why?
Any character from a book. Well, I'd like to be James Bond for a little while. His job allows him to travel around the world and do different things. I don't think I'd be particularly good at any of the actual spy work. I'm not a very subtle person, and I don't think, he sometimes gets into physical altercations, and I don't really think that'd be my strong suit. But the traveling, I think I'd like. So I think James Bond. Young man.
Richard Lavoie, Sachem Times alumni, class of 1995. It is clear from some of your previous answers that you are an educational pioneer. Could you please explain Sachem Academy and what that program is all about? Thank you.
Excellent question. I do consider myself a pioneer, and the past 3 years I've been fortunate enough to be part of the Sachem Academy program, a program that I don't think has gotten enough recognition around here. And I've been part of the program with Mr. Lavoie, Ms. Topham, Ms. Hoey, and what we've done is we've taken incoming 8th graders, and in their 9th grade year we team them, and they take their 4 core classes together: math, science, English, and social studies. And they go through the schedule for that portion of the day together. They have the same teachers. There's no other students in those 4 classes with them. So it allows us to really focus intensely on them, get to know them, and they get to know each other. And they also have a 5th block directed study period. We don't have really any directed study periods here anymore, and this is one of the few that remains. And it provides them with access to those 4 teachers once again, and to each other, because the students are a valuable resource for one another. If you're taking a class with somebody, sometimes it helps to talk about problems you have with homework and different things with other people. So the Sachem Academy is one of the great things that we're doing here at Saugus High School. And I'm glad you asked that question, because I think our first group of Sachem Academy alumni are now juniors, and I think we're really seeing some success with these individuals. Other questions? Yes.
Danielle Strange, Sachem Times, class of 2015. Recently, Saugus was in the news for its prom dress code policy. I know you already told us some about it earlier, but what are your thoughts on students' adherence to the dress codes?
As I said before, I really I saw it on the local news, and I really don't understand why anyone outside of the students and the parents here at Saugus High School would be at all interested in the dress code policy of this building. I mean, I think most schools have dress code policies. So for whatever reason, this has become a news story. I don't quite understand it. But I think generally the students at the proms I've been to, the students understand the policy and they do a good job of adhering to the policy. The students want to go and have a good time, and I know they want to get dressed up, and that's part of the fun of prom. And I think traditionally our students have done a great job at that, and I believe this year it won't be any different. I think they just presented the policy in a different fashion, and that's what's getting all the attention. But I think we've always done a great job at prom, and I think we'll continue to do so.
Patrick Davis, Sachem Times, class of 2015. Did you grow up in Saugus? And if you did, what kind of student were you at Saugus High?
I did grow up in Saugus, and as I mentioned earlier, I was perhaps a little bit disorganized as a student. I was a pretty good student, but penmanship, organization, those things weren't always my strong suit. I am not a Saugus High alumni. I can't have that distinction. As some of my juniors give me a hard time about, I am a Malden Catholic high school alumni. I'm proud of my high school, but I was a pretty good student, but not the top of the class, not the bottom, and somewhere in the middle. Yes.
Richard Lavoie, Sachem Times alumni, class of 1995. This is actually a follow-up question to question number 8. Okay. What do you think about students who take your class simply because you think you are so good-looking?
I don't believe that happens. I believe most students take my class because they are either required to, or they take my electives because they can't get into childcare or AutoCAD. So I don't think there's a large contingent of people taking my class just because I'm so good looking. I think that's more of a difficulty that someone like Mr. Webb has to deal with. So, any other questions? Well, I thank you for having me here today. This was great fun, and I wish you success in the future. Thank you. You want me to walk away now? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for your time and information. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Sachem Times Live, and join us again as we interview another notable member of the Saugus community.